Hello, everybody. Okay, so today I want to talk about the concept of catching thoughts. To me, this is one of the most powerful things that I have learned, and I think one of the most powerful things that I can teach my clients when we do weight loss coaching or nutrition coaching. What where I learned this was through Brooke Castillo, who has a monthly life coaching program called Self-Coaching Scholars, and I did that for about a year. And she teaches something called the model, and I'll explain that to you in a minute. But what it does, and what she'll tell you, is she didn't invent this. She just took things that were basically already known and being taught by a lot of people and put it into really a tool that you can use to sort of filter things that you're going through. You can sort of filter it through this tool to see how it's all working. Because sometimes we can understand things conceptually, but in terms of like knowing how to actually take that data and use it in our life and actually see changes, it gets a little tricky. So when I learned this from her, it was great because I had sort of learned these concepts before, but this was the first time it was something really tangible. You can sit down and you can use to see how maybe you are creating certain results in your life, good or bad, and how to actually start to change that. So that's what I want to talk about today, because I think that if you can approach this with some curiosity and be open to this idea, this can truly be a game changer. And I believe wholeheartedly this is what's holding most people back from being able to get the results that they want. I mean, I would say that across the board. Now, some people might sort of accidentally figure this out, but if you can understand this, and really what's great is this can be applied to anything in your life, not just healthy eating or exercise or weight loss. It can be applied to relationships and career and money and everything else. So once you understand this, it can really be something that, again, is this like tangible tool to help you understand yourself and then possibly make changes. So let me sort of explain what it is. If you are like me, most of my life, I believed that circumstances, and this could be situations, this could be other people, whatever, right? My weight, whatever. Circumstances were creating how I felt. Right? So I would just go through life and all these things were coming at me and they were causing me to feel happy or feel sad or whatever, right? And those feelings were creating the results. So a great example is a lot of us will say, well, I'm just not motivated to work out, let's just say, right? So we all can kind of agree that our feelings sort of drive our actions. And again, what I felt like is my feelings were coming from my circumstance. So I might feel like, well, I don't have enough, money, or I don't have enough time, or if this person would act different, or, these things would be different, then I would feel motivated. Then I could get the stuff done, right? So what I learned from going through Brooke's program and the way she explains it is it's not the circumstances that cause our feelings. It's our thoughts about the circumstances that cause our feelings. And I know this seems kind of crazy at first, but once you start to see it, it really, really makes a lot of sense, okay? So what she teaches is that we have circumstances that are totally neutral. We have thoughts about those circumstances, which create feelings, and then those feelings are what are driving our actions and results. And I know people kind of get this because a lot of times when clients will come to me and we're talking and I'll say, or they'll describe how they're feeling. And they're like, I'm just so hopeless and discouraged and, depressed about, trying to get to my goals. And I'll jot that down. I'll say, okay, if you had to generate emotion, let's just say you're standing in a room of 100 women that all want to, be healthier or lose weight or have some sort of goal. What are 3 emotions, like if you could give them emotion to help them go towards their goal, what are 3 emotions that you would create and generate and hand to these women to help them on their journey? And they're like, well, motivated, determined, excited, hopeful, right? And so what I'm trying to point out there is there's this big gap between what we kind of know are the emotions that are going to serve us and the emotions we're currently feeling. But again, what most of us think is that, well, it's the circumstance. If the circumstance would just change, then I would feel more motivated, right? And of course, there's like a bunch of things that we want to change that a lot of times we honestly can't. So we kind of get this part here, but this is the part that's a little bit harder to believe, right? Because we're like, no, I'm for sure it's the circumstance that's causing the emotion. So what I want you to know about your thoughts is your thoughts are totally optional. We can, first of all, what we want to do is pull out and just know what we're truly thinking. And then we're simply deciding whether we want to keep thinking that thought, if that thought serves us. What I always tell people is don't try to argue with the thought, just simply decide if that thought serves you. So let's go through a couple of these so I can illustrate what I'm talking about here. And there's a worksheet that goes with this, and I gave you some categories, and you can go through and do this yourself. But again, you can do this with anything. You don't have to do it with those specific categories if you don't want to. But let's take something like your current weight. And not everybody wants to lose weight. Not everybody may have issues with their current weight. But a lot of times people will say to me, women will say, I can't weigh myself because it's a trigger and it just makes me feel really bad. And the problem with that is that we're giving that a lot of power, right? Like anytime there's something we're trying to avoid because we feel like it will trigger us emotionally, then that thing has a lot of power. We have to avoid it. We have to, make sure we don't see it or we don't hear about it or anything like that. And that's kind of a tough way to go through life, especially if you're in a place where you're trying to make some healthy changes. So what we want to do instead is find a way to really neutralize that circumstance so that it doesn't have so much power over us. So a circumstance, again, is something that's totally factual. So here we would simply you wouldn't put anything like I'm overweight or I need to lose weight. You would simply put whatever the weight is. So let's just say somebody weighs 200 pounds. Okay. Now they're going to have a thought about that, right? And again, what I want to point out here is this is totally neutral. This is just like any math number, right? Like if I say the time is 9 o'clock, it probably doesn't trigger, an emotional response from you. So that's what we want to start with. This is totally neutral. Now, what a lot of people may think about this, and again, this is all relative too. Some people might look at this and be like, oh, I would love to be 200 pounds. Other people might look at this and have a different thought, right? But if I have a client, let's say that's trying to lose weight and their goal is 150 pounds and they step on the scale and it says 200 pounds, they may have a obviously negative thought about this. So they may think something like, that's terrible. I'm doing something wrong. Could be another thought. It could be something way more negative. That's disgusting or that's gross or whatever. But there may be some sort of thought, very negative about this, that's going to then create a feeling of maybe depressed. Some people might feel worthless, discouraged, hopeless is another big one I hear. Okay. So again, the weight's totally neutral, but then we're having these really negative thoughts that are creating. Now, here's what's tricky is a lot of people are like, yeah, but these are just facts. These aren't just like my opinions about it. These are just the facts. Like they assume that anybody would step on the scale, see that number and have the same reaction. So again, they feel like the circumstance is creating these feelings, but I want to point out all of these thoughts are totally optional. So what we want to ask ourselves is, does it help me to think the thought that's terrible? Or does it help me to think the thought I'm doing something wrong? Well, if it's creating negative emotion, I mean, think about what are the actions you're going to take if you feel depressed, worthless, hopeless. Most people I know are probably going to not do the things they need to do in order to move towards their goal. If you're feeling depressed, hopeless, worthless, whatever else you want to put there, frustrated, then typically we tend to do things that move us away from our goal, which is kind of ironic, right? I've seen this over and over and over. When people feel this way, they often tend to eat more emotionally. They don't work out. They don't do the little things that could move them towards their goal. So the action and result might be inaction and, don't lose weight, for example, if that's their goal. Okay. So what's great about this is that we can keep this circumstance completely the same, and we can simply decide to change our thought. Now, you don't want to just try to pop in a thought that's totally unrealistic to you. So you might not go from that's terrible to that's wonderful, right? But you want to try to find a thought about this that serves you. So again, don't get into an argument with your brain about whether your current thoughts are true or not, because you'll spin out on that. But just decide, is this thought helpful to keep thinking? Is it serving me? And if it's creating negative emotion, the answer is no. So I tell my clients, literally, I want you to think about plucking that thought from your brain, crumbling it up like a piece of paper, and throwing it in the trash can. All right. Now we want to play around with what are some thoughts that I might want to think instead about this number. Okay. And I had some written down, but I don't have them. Okay. So we look at the number on the scale, and it might be something like I'm figuring it out. It might be something about how I'm thankful for my body. Like I'm thankful that I'm healthy. Right? Like I'm thankful that I can move around. I'm thankful that I can play with my kids. I'm thankful that, you know, I'm thankful for what my body can do for me, right? So we're focusing on the positive things. That is then going to create very different feelings. So if you have the thought, I'm figuring it out, that might create feelings of excitement, excited, might be feelings of like relief, might be feelings of motivation. And if you're thinking about the things that you're thankful for, they may be feelings of gratitude. Now, it's normal when you first start doing this for some part of your brain to be like, no, 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 that's not true. It's disgusting. You know, it's trying to go back to those old thought patterns, those old neural pathways. So just know that that's very, very normal. And just like anything, this is something that you want to practice. It's like you want to gently guide your brain back to the new thought. Like, oh, we don't think that anymore. That thought doesn't serve us. We're going to now think, I'm thankful for my body. I'm thankful that I have a healthy body. I'm thankful I'm able to get around. I'm figuring this out. I'm on my healthy living journey. Everything is happening as it should be happening. Those types of things. And again, you can kind of play around with it. Sometimes I have to try on different thoughts until I find one that feels fitting, right? That is believable enough, that feels right. And it's kind of like, I sort of know it. There's almost like a different feeling in my body, because feelings really are just vibrations in our body, right? Feelings are created by, we have a neural pathway or a thought, electricity in the brain, and then that kind of goes into our body, and we have this reaction in our body, and it's literally like a vibration. And it's kind of good to know that, because when you're learning to process emotions, you can pay attention to how different emotions feel in your body. So when I find a thought that kind of works, I feel a different vibration, and then I just have to keep practicing that thought over and over. It's like gently guiding my brain back to, this is the new thought. We're going to keep practicing about this and generating these better emotions. Okay, so if I'm feeling excited, relief, motivated, grateful, the actions I'm going to take are going to be very different, right? I'm probably going to feel like I can, eat healthy. I can, exercise if I have that as a goal. Okay, so forth and so on, right? So all of a sudden we take the power away from this number. We can step on the scale, and that number can be what it is, and we can process through our emotion and figure out how to think about it in a way that serves us better, instead of feeling like we have to hide away from it. Okay? All right. Let's try another one. Got a bunch of them here. So one of the ones that I get from people a lot is the thought, it's not possible for me. So if we go to, let's just say weight loss. Now, again, I know that's not everybody's goal. So maybe for you, it's just, eating better, or maybe it's working out more consistently. It's just living a healthier lifestyle. Maybe it's cutting out something that you feel like doesn't serve you very well, like maybe eating certain foods or whatever. Okay, but we'll go with weight loss here. So the thought might be, it's not possible for me. It's not possible for me. Everybody that I've ever worked with has told me like deep down this is their fear, their thought, their belief. And a belief, again, is just a thought we've had over and over and over. And I think this is true for almost anybody that's going for any sort of big goal. There is this sort of background fear. Like, I get that it's possible in theory, but I don't think it's possible for me. Like, I'm missing something, like I'm missing a gene or something that people that are able to do this have and I don't have. So think about this thought. It's not possible for me. What feeling does that elicit? For most people, it's maybe hopeless. Certainly could be discouraged, unmotivated. I mean, if you truly don't feel like something's possible for you, why would you take the actions that you need to take to get there? It doesn't make any sense, right? So we'd probably be inaction, or we might even do things to, because this is such a painful thought, that's where we might even do things to try to buffer away the emotion, to, do things that make us feel better in the moment. And why not, right? Again, if you really believe this to be true, why not do those things in the moment to make you feel better? What difference is it going to make, right? So again, we're sort of driving this engine, and the result we're going to get, obviously, is we're going to prove this thought to be true, that it's not possible for us, right? Isn't that crazy? So our results almost always prove whatever the thought is. It's like a self-fulfilling prophecy. So what we want to do is pluck this thought out. And remember, your brain's going to want to go back and be like, no, but it really isn't possible for us. And you just want to gently guide it back to a new thought. I like the thought, I'm figuring it out. Another one that can be good sometimes is just to sort of open up a little bit of space in your brain. If it's really holding on tight to this idea of it's not possible, just having the thought, it could be possible. In theory, it could be possible. There are other people out there like me that have been able to accomplish this goal. And what that does is it opens up a little bit of space in your brain for information to come in that proves that thought to be true. So when you are going for a goal that you believe is impossible, you won't see the evidence that it is possible. That creates something called cognitive dissonance. So when we believe something and we have evidence that's opposite to our belief, it's kind of painful for us. So our brain protects us by saying, if you believe it's not possible for you, I'm not going to filter in the information that's opposite of that, which seems crazy, but it's true. So if you start to open up some space and say, it could be possible for me, right? I'm figuring it out. It could be possible for me. All of a sudden what happens is you start to realize there's evidence of it all around you. There's all these other people just like you that have been able to do it. The how-to of it starts to come to you, right? The little steps that you need to take. But when we're like, it's not possible, our brain shuts down and we're not able to see any of the solutions. So I talk about the reticular activating system in the brain, and basically that's what's filtering information into our consciousness based on what we believe to be true. So a lot of times we don't see things that are right in front of us because our belief is it's not possible, right? Even though it's right there. Or I don't know how. I don't know how is another thought. I'll come back to that one because that's another really powerful one. But let's just say we change the time figuring it out. Well, that might create feelings of motivation or excitement, hopefulness, okay? And then that's going to lead to, taking the actions that we need to take. Sorry, my hard to write down there. But the actions consistently that we need to take, right? I'm figuring this out. It just creates some lightness to it, okay? But the other big one that I just said, I don't know how. Let's go back to, let's do healthy eating for this one. Okay, there's so many diet plans out there and there's so many different books, and like, I don't know how. I don't know how to do it. I don't know the right way. Gosh, I hate that. I hate that, the right way, right? Because it's like what I'm trying to teach everyone. There isn't one right way. There's so many right ways to do this. But I get it. So this, I don't know how, is such a heavy thought, right? Often creates feelings of frustration and overwhelm. Okay. And of course, whenever we feel frustrated and overwhelmed, we don't take action. Okay. We continue to Or again, we may even emotionally eat because, oh, I'm just so frustrated, forget it. Like, I'll just go eat the bag of cookies, right? I don't know how, I don't know what to do this, just forget it. I'm just going to, keep doing what I'm doing, or I'm going to even eat more of the stuff I know I shouldn't be doing. So again, it just shuts down our brain to the possible solutions. Again, a great replacement thought would be, I'm figuring it out. A great replacement thought might be, there's lots of right ways to do this. I'm on my journey, something like that, that will, again, just open up our brain a little bit and create some space. So I could go on and on and on with these, but I want you to go through that worksheet and create your own, really just write down what you think your current dominating thoughts are. Now, you may want to take a couple of days to just notice what your thoughts are, right? When you sit down to do it, you may not even know what your dominant thoughts are. Because again, our beliefs are thoughts we've had over and over that we don't even recognize them anymore as optional. We just assume it's like a universal fact, right? Like the sky is blue. Like we don't even think, that it's something that can be disputed. So a lot of our thoughts, we just want to kind of notice them first without judging them. And like I said, you don't want to get into an argument about whether or not the thought is true. You just want to decide, is this thought serving me? And how you know it's not serving you is a couple things. First of all, is it creating negative emotion? Negative emotion will always push us away from our goal versus towards our goal. And I'm not saying we should never feel negative emotion. That's a whole nother thing. We need to learn how to process negative emotion, because as we go towards the goal, we are going to experience negative emotion. We're going to have failures. We're going to have disappointments. So that's the other side of it. But as much as possible, we don't want to be generating negative emotion, right? So that's one thing. And then the other thing is, I would just ask yourself, would you ever say that thought to a loved one? If you have a daughter, would you ever say that to her, or a sister, or mother, or best friend? Or if you heard somebody else talking to them in the way that you're talking to yourself, how would that make you feel? Would you want to go punch somebody in the face for talking to your friend like that? That's when you know, okay, wait a minute, this is not a healthy thing. I shouldn't be thinking these thoughts to myself either. So that's how you want to do it. So again, this isn't something you just get overnight. I think it's something that we work on for the rest of our life. But all it is it's just a way for us to be able to filter through our thoughts and look at the current results we're getting. And if we understand that we're creating that by what we're thinking, then we can sort of backstep to, what are my thoughts, what are my feelings, and then start working on creating more positive thoughts, more positive emotions. So if you have any questions about this, let me know. We'll talk more about it soon. But good luck with the worksheet. And if you want to share that with me, I would love to see what some of your thoughts are. If I can help you generate some alternative thoughts that are more helpful, I would love to do that. So, all right, I will talk to y'all soon.